Hi guys, it's Emily from Nobel Novels and welcome to today's video. This is my September wrap up part 1. Now, I'm having a real mixed bag this month. I've got 4 5 stars, 3 4.5 stars, 3 4 stars, all of which have been great, but I've had at least 1 DNF. I've had 1 DNF for definite, 1 2.5 star, 1 3 star and 1 3.5 stars. So those were the books that really let me down. So it's kind of almost like an even balance. And for me, I sometimes get probably too set up on my star rating. I get too set up on whether I want all good books and I want all books that are going to amaze me. And when it feels a bit like some books have let me down, it kind of just makes me feel a bit sort of slumpy and a bit bleh. But one of the books that I'm telling you that I've read today, here's a book that I'm literally going to finish directly after filming this. So I've already rated it in my head because I've literally got like 50 pages. And I'll explain that when I go on. Because I'm filming this literally the day before this video goes live, it's the 14th. That last book would have been 14 books for 14 days, which is good. I'm really happy with that. Bear in mind, like I said, where I've DNF 1, I've unhauled 1 unread that was because I've just really keep thinking about it and I just don't want to pick it up. It looks too depressing. I've got another 2 books that were DNF because they're part of a series, and I'll explain that when I get to it. So I have kind of, but I may have bought like 28 books already this month. So I need to crack on and keep reading. Although some of the books, I'm going to show you 7 books I'm adding to my unread TBR at the end of the video. I have got 4 contemporaries because I'm going to be really gentle with myself. But like I said, you know me, I will add probably, the speed I'm reading at, I'll probably add a couple of extras, but you'll find that out in wrap up part 2. But because today's first books, I've got tomorrow I'm working, I'm literally going to have a bit of a contemporary binge. I may pick up a historical fiction book tomorrow after work and just sort of dip into it briefly. But I'm going to do my reread if I get time this morning, or certainly this afternoon when I'm uploading. And I'm going to start my reread of a favourite book, which is The Patchwork Family by Cathy Bramley. This is a book I read a couple of years ago, and yes, it's quite long. It's like over 400 pages. It's like 430 something pages. But it's a book that really was a feel good. It's got like the found family, like the friendships that are families and things like that. And it was a really good, cozy, feel good book. So I think I'm going to start that today, and that will just really sort of get me in a good mood, because literally the last few books, apart from the most recent one, the couple before that really depressed me. So I need some books that are going to make me feel good. So Thomas helped me pick this, so I'm going to read this. Now, I DNF'd the Overstory because it was not for me whatsoever. It was literary fiction. I did not get it. It was a massive like 600, 700 page book, and I was like, I am not killing myself with this. So I DNF'd that straight away. So I think I read like 20 pages, DNF'd that. Sorry for those of you that like that kind of work. It's not for me. But the one I feel really guilty about is my 2.5 star book, Wild Acre by Philippa Gregory. Now, I've just been accepted to a Tandem Ad PR product readathon by Philippa Gregory. But I've discovered that her older works, this was published in 1998, I don't like, and I'm not going to go. So because of the fact that I really didn't like this, I have DNF'd the whole series. I've unhauled them. This was given to me by the lovely Jack. I'm sorry, Jack, but there is a lot of Okay, trigger warnings again. I know some people don't like them, so if you don't want to hear the trigger warnings, press mute on this until I take the book down. Okay, but I know some people like the idea of a trigger warnings. Right, so here's a trigger warning. It is full of incest. It is full of icky, yucky stuff about a brother and sister doing the deed and them trying to encourage it. And it was full of icky sexual stuff with incest. It's full of The reason why I think I didn't DNF it was because I wanted to find out if this character got her comeuppance. The lead character is Beatrice, and she is such a bitch. She is a manipulative, evil bitch. She can almost go up there with like Easter Eden kind of badness of Cathy, but she's not written well. She's not as good. Like, I think that, I'm not denying the writing is quite good. Obviously, it was obviously good because I didn't put it down, but I did rate it only 2.5 stars because it was so icky, and I do not want to carry on with that. I do not want to have that. So it's going bye-bye to the charity shop. Now to my 3-star books. And this has been a real Marmite book. The next book that I'm going to pick up has been a real Marmite book, and that is Sauron Bliss. Alice loved this. A few people have absolutely loved this. My sister and my mum didn't. Now that should have told me something. Charlie knows me better than anyone else in the world knows me. My mum and me have very similar tastes. They did not like this. It is 3 stars because by far it's better than Wild Acre. And it was a very average book. Like, I think Martha Friel, I get the depression side of this. I get that she has, like, it really does tackle some hard-hitting things. And it wasn't like I hated it, but I felt annoyed at Martha. Like, she wasn't exactly I just felt like she didn't deal with her issues. And I liked Patrick, who's another character in this. I can't tell you who because obviously it's spoilers. And I liked Martha's sister. I really liked those 2 characters. So there were characters in this that I loved, but Martha, I felt, did a lot of pom-pom. Poor me. Which I know Mother, I can do that too, but it just kind of didn't sit well with me. Like, I understand for me, everyone handles depression and anxiety differently, and I totally get that. That does need to be a sensitive subject. It does need to be a subject you look at very carefully. But for me, it just wasn't as amazing as I wanted it to be. So it's going back to charity shops. Now, for a book that's 3.5 stars, it was a good contemporary, but for me, again, it wasn't my favourite book by this author. This is my recommendation by the lovely Angela from Reading Off My Shelf. She recommended this author, Jane Fallon. Now, I've read some of Jane Fallon's books, and I've loved them. This one was just kind of average, middle of the road. It was 3.5 stars because it did get better, but it has some tropes again that I don't like in them. If you want to know my tropes that I don't like, let me know. But it was okay. It wasn't amazing. It was okay. It's one I'm glad I read because it is quite a cozy contemporary. But it has like the friendship elements it tackled very interestingly. And like Lydia starts an online business, and she's like, when Lydia starts an online business, her closest friend Georgia wants to help, so she sets up a fake Twitter account to pose as a potential customer. Then Lydia begins to confide in her online body. Georgia knows she should confess the truth, but she can't help herself until Lydia reveals a secret that could end their friendship and threaten Georgia's marriage. This is it kind of got to me in places. I liked the second half when things turned again, and I liked the ending, which is what got up to 3.5 stars, but it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Now to my 4-star books. Now, the first one I'm going to keep because I'm keeping a lot of Jenny Colgan's books. I do need to go through them. This is Meet Me at the Cupcake Cafe by Jenny Colgan. This is a very cozy 4-star, cozy contemporary, and I did like it. There was again a character in this that I flipping hated, but I think that was the point. I was supposed to hate him. I was supposed to hate the character. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I was supposed to hate him with a passion. I loved Izzy Randall. I loved the Cupcake Cafe. I loved the recipes. I need to go and try them, although you ask my kids, I can't bake to save my life. I love her grandpa. I love the friendships that she makes in this book. I think this is a total cozy feel-good book. I've got the Christmas at the Cupcake Cafe that I'm reading in December, so I will be reading that, and I will keep this because I think this one might be good to reread, but I did enjoy it. It's very, very, very one of Jenny Colgan's earlier works, but it's very cozy, feel-good contemporary, and I loved it. So yes, it was 4 stars, but it was a real cozy 4 stars. Next was my mystery that I got given by a friend. This is a gorgeous copy, but again, with mysteries, I don't want to keep them. It has got a gorgeous hardback. Whoa, look at that. Look at that. It's gorgeous. So whoever gets this, I might try and get them to get it for a nice price. I might try and encourage my manager at the Baz Books to sell this for a bit more than the normal price because it is good and I want to give back to charity. But this is It Could Never Happen Here. This is an Irish author, I believe, Etienne Shortell. I believe this is an Irish author and it's set in Ireland, and it is a mystery, but it's like a contemporary mystery, and there is a death somewhere along the lines, and there is some stuff here that there again are some triggers. It's about a community, and it all happens in this one area, and you kind of jip backwards and forwards to when the murder happens, or supposed murder or whatever, then when the death happens, to the current timelines, and it goes backwards and forwards, but it's done very well. It's a very good mystery. I think I read this in like a Saturday. I sat down and it was a 4 stars because it's not necessarily one I want to reread, and I didn't guess the twists, but I did really like it. I did think it was a really good book. I think it's definitely a mystery book, and definitely one I will definitely try and reread, because if you like mysteries sort of that are not, and thrillers that are not scary but intriguing and a bit dark and a bit like, oh, it's kind of think Desperate Housewives kind of style. Do you remember, if anyone remembers Desperate Housewives? So this is good, and I did definitely enjoy it, but I wouldn't necessarily reread it. So that's another one that's good. But now to the 4-star that I'm reading now. It is 4 stars because literally I've got not even 70 pages to read this morning. Yeah, like 60 or 70 pages, but you can see the typesetting. This is like 4 stars for me, because it is a good book and I can feel it. It's very good middle grade fantasy. It's very much about nature as well, which I love nature. I love the outdoors element. And I believe there's the second one in the series, so I might look for that. Charlie gave me this, and it's about the land of Far Alone. City boy Tin and country girl Comfrey are guided on a quest by 2 young hares. Their task is to save the mystical wild folk from destruction. But the wild folk don't trust humans, and the children face impossible challenges and meet creatures as they battle to save the land they love. This is really good. Thoroughly love this. Can't wait to finish this morning. And that's another reason I want to get this video filmed, so I can finish it before I go to Baz Books. Now to my 4.5 stars. Again, these are really good books, and I plan to actually, I think there's a couple of these, I think they've got 3 4.5 stars. I know 2 of them I'm definitely keeping. 1 I'm not sure about. I will think about it. So the first one I'm definitely keeping is because I keep all of Talia Hibbert's work, and that is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. I think the only reason this wasn't 5 stars is because this is her first YA contemporary, and I'm obviously a frick load older than YA, and so I'm not necessarily the designated author. So if you like Talia Hibbert's works, then definitely pick it up, but I do think this is more aimed at the YA. So if don't pick this up if you want like an adulty book, because this is about characters that are like 18, sort of 17, 18, and this is got a lot of good about body positivity. It's got a lot about, it says on the back it tackles OCD, and Bradley Graham's the one that has OCD, and I think it is tackled incredibly well. I love the lead character, Celine Bangura. Don't love her as much as I love Bradley. God, I love Bradley. It's like, if I was in that time, I think he's such a lovely, lovely character. And I love Celine's sister, and I love all the extra characters, and Talia Hibbert cannot write a bad book. She is amazing at her writing, and this is done very, very well. It's a very cute, cosy contemporary. It's one I'm keeping. So it's very, very cute, but it's one, and I'm also, I think at some point Mia might want it. It's very, very pink. So next to my next 4.5 stars book, and it's a book that Chris got me for Christmas, and this is Forever Yours. I'm trying to decide actually which ones Mum's going to want to read. I've put all the pile out, but I need to think about which ones Mum's going to want to read. Normally I put them by for her. This is one I'm going to lend to my mum first, and this is Forever Yours by Debbie Johnson. Again, another author I've always loved. And this one does tackle adoption, and it does tackle other issues. And this is a love to last a lifetime. Gemma knows perfectly well how one moment your life can change forever. That's why for 2 decades she lived her life by the rule book. But this year everything is different. The beloved daughter she gave up for adoption all those years ago is about to turn 18, and that means there is a chance to be found. For the first time in her life, Gemma can no longer run from her secrets, and she begins to realise that when everything is falling apart, love can be found in the unlikeliest of places. And again, this has found family in it. It has relationships. It has what you do for your children, even if separating yourself from your children is for the best for them, but it breaks your heart. This woman is so amazing. She did what was best for her child, but it broke her. Very good book. Very emotional. And I think I'm going to put all the ones I'm going to keep there, and then Mum can probably read them. Now, to the next book was Alice from Alice in the Giant Bookshelf's favourite book of last year, I believe. I think it was last year or this year. You can see my gorgeous edition. This is one I'm definitely keeping, but not. And this is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Dyer. Now, I know that Alice wanted it to be 5 stars for me. I am shocked, but it is a bit too literary for me. It's a historical fiction, I believe, but it's a bit too literary for me, and I don't think I'm bright enough for this book. There is magic in this place. You just have to sit and breathe and it will find you. So there's 3 different timelines. 15th century Constantinople, present day Idaho, and the future and humanity's last hope. I liked the 15th century Constantinople. I thought the present day was okay. Loved the future timelines, and they did all blend very, very well together. Didn't have that 5-star element for me, and I'm really sorry, Alice. I do think it's a brilliant, brilliant book, and It is heartbreaking, it's epic, it's very like soul destroying, and it's well worth the read. I can see why it was up for awards last year. I think it's a very good book, and it's one I'm definitely keeping, but I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. I just don't know why I didn't love it, but there you go. So the next book, which is 5 stars, and it's the one I'm definitely going to get my mum to reread, and that is You Don't Know What War Is by Yeva Slo. And this is set, it's about the war in Europe between Ukraine and Russia, and it's set when it happened last year. This author has been was all over social media last year, all over the internet, because this is her diary about when it was happening. And we find out this is all diary entries, and it's heartbreaking to think we all know what happened in that war last year. It was very real, but to read it from a sort of young adult's point of view, it's just amazing. And it's a 12-year-old girl, like she's only a year older than what Mia is, for crying out loud. Imagine how this child felt imagine how they all felt over there. And it really did. I couldn't have read it any sooner than I did, because I don't know exactly how things are in the things. I don't look at news, but it was heartbreaking and it was amazing, and it's one I think everyone should read. So that's the first of my 5 stars. And the next book is a book that I read on, according to Goodreads and Storygraph, it's 4.5 stars. I need to see if I can work out how to change it. It should have been 5 stars, and it's one I'm going to definitely get my mum to read, and that is The Wartime Library by Kate Thompson. I picked this up from the charity shop. I think it's one of the most recent books. Basically, we start off in the current day time, just after COVID happened, and, well, I think COVID was still going on at the start of this book, and there is a lead character that's connected to this past storyline in London 1944, and this talks about the underground library, the little wartime underground library, and it is incredibly powerful. I think this is the one that I'm going to let my mum read, but I want back, and I don't keep wartime books very often. I don't rave about them enough very often, but this one absolutely got to me, because we talk about Clara Button, who is no ordinary librarian. While the world remains at war in the East End of London, Clara has created the country's only underground library, built over the tracks in the disused Bethnal Green tube station. Down there, a secret community thrives, with bunk beds and everything else, and she provides a library. And then she has a library assistant called Ruby Munro, who has her own storyline, and they have their own storylines. Then they have other bits, and there's other people in that community, and they all interlink. It's heartbreaking, but I believe that underground library did actually exist, and it is amazing to think that libraries were a godsend to people in wartime. I think that books were a godsend to people during the COVID times. Certainly for me, that books were my lifeline when COVID was happening. If I wouldn't have had my books, God knows where I would have been. So I think for me, I found the COVID comparisons and the wartime comparisons were still felt quite close to me, and the isolation and things that happened then, and the survival instinct, the community instinct, that all really sort of rang true to me, and it was just an incredible book. Now to my reread, which was Frenchmans Creek, which I reread with all of the book with Ange from Ange's Book Tata, Danny from Danny's Book World, Alice Malice and the Giant Bookshelf, and Jem from Gemma Books. I think me and Alice finished it at a similar sort of time. I think Alice actually finished it before me, which shocked her, because I deliberately read it over the whole week. Like, I read it over a week, and I read it really slowly to really absorb it. And I think for me, even though this is one of my favourites, the time I read it, I read that in like a day, because it is such a short and sweet book. It could have been read for Shorty September, because it's like literally 250 pages. But for me, I think reading it slowly made me love it even more. If it was 5 stars before, it could be like 5.5 stars now. Daphne du Maurier's work is amazing. It is right up there for me. I don't think it's quite as good as Jamaica Inn, but it's better than Rebecca, and I really did enjoy it, and I did enjoy it certainly more than My Cousin Rachel. So this was one I really loved. But again, I think that's keeping, but I don't think Mum needs to read that. Now the next 2 books are both YA, both incredible. But for me, this is the one that stood out as a favourite for the month. I'm not even going to get you guys to guess, because I loved When Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Byron. And I know there was another book, there's the sequel to this, which I'm definitely going to be buying and reading. I might even treat myself and pay full whack for it, because I loved this and I want to know what happens in the next book. I know she's got another like thrillery kind of book that's in Waterstones at the moment, but I thoroughly love this. This is, again, it's fantasy, it's twisty, it's kind of like, it's just got so many elements, and it is exciting and scary and thrilling and fantasy, and it's just, oh my god, I thoroughly love this book. To break an ancient curse, she must let her power bloom. Breesis has a gift. She can grow an apple tree from a seed in a heartbeat and flowers bloom, but when she inherits an old house and suddenly has the privacy to test her powers for the first time, as Bree starts to magic the house, is crumbling grounds back to life, she finds she's also inherited generations of secrets. This is amazing. It is thoroughly amazing. I don't think it's Mum's kind of book, but I really loved it. It was like a favourite for the year. And then to a book that was my TBR jar pick, and my TBR jar pick finally gave me a 5-star, and that is On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. We all know this is connected to the Hate You Give, and I read the more recent book by the author that was come out as well. Angie Thomas writes brilliantly. Again, this is YA, but I rated it 5 stars because even though it is for the YA audience, it tackles so many things in it. It does talk a lot about race. It talks about a lot about community. It talks about race is the biggest thing, and about a girl finding her power through her words, and how you can use your power, use your words for either for positive or negative. Racism was really strong at this time, and it still is very strong in America. I think America really gets it really hard. And this is about a 16-year-old girl, and she's labelled trouble. She has preconceived. People have thoughts about her that are not necessarily true, and I just think this is an incredible book. So those are my 5 stars. My favourite of the month was 100% The Poison Heart. But now I'm going to show you some very different books that I've gone for, that I did for my TBR. Normally I only had 6, and I try and mix them up. I've got 3 historical fiction, 2 that are shorter, 1 bigger, and I've got 4 contemporaries. But I wanted to go for contemporaries. I wanted to really go for books that I know that I really want to read, and just to be gentle on myself for the second half of the month. I know that it's now like going from very hot today, but the weather next week is due to be raining, and I'm aware that it could start off some flares. I could be in, my chronic pain could happen. I'll talk about it more in my gratitude journal, but I have had consultant and phone calls from my GP, so things are going to get sorted. But as I'm aware that my pain could trigger, I have to have care packages in place, and that's why, hence why I've picked some contemporaries to show you. But on a very different note, before I show you those, I've got We Are All Birds of Uganda by Hafsa Yanyan. This is a book I've had on my shelf for over a year. It's set in 1960s Uganda. Hassan is struggling to run his family business following the sudden death of his wife. Just as he begins to see a way forward, the new regime seizes power, and a wave of rising prejudice threatens to sweep everything away. And then you've got present-day London. Samir, a high-flying lawyer, thought he had it all, but he can't escape the overwhelming feeling of emptiness. When tragedy calls him back home, Samir finds himself caught up between a future he's always believed he wanted and a past he struggles to accept. 2 continents over a troubled decade, and this just tackles racial tension. It's not a long book. I think, like I said, it's about 350 pages, but it's one that I really want to tackle. I want to learn more about different countries and different issues, so I think this is going to be a really good book. Now to a book that I picked up because I believe it's one of my subscribers' favourite authors, historical fiction authors, and for the life of me I can't remember which one. I should have written this down. And this is The Guardian of Lies by Kate Furnivall. I think I've read some of her books, but I've not read all of them. Right, and this is set in 1953 in the south of France. The fragile peace between the West and Soviet Russia hangs on a knife edge. Eloise Cassard was raised near Alès in the Carmenjou, idolising her older brother Andre. When he leaves to become a CIA intelligence officer in Paris, she follows him. Having exchanged the confines of her father's farm for a life of freedom, her world comes alive, but everything changes when Andre is injured, a direct result of Eloise's actions. This is talking about Soviet intelligence. This is talking about a different area. This is looking very, again, pretty tough. I think that this is like 400 pages, so it's not too long, but it's not too short. Sorry, the sunlight's now gone at an angle. But this is again hard-hitting. So I've got 2 very, very hard-hitting books, which will have to be read at the same time as contemporaries. Then to a book that obviously I'm starting to get back into the Tudor times after reading all those Alison Weir Tudor Queen books. I'm now finally feel like I can start to pick up more Tudor books. And this is about the White Rose, the Red Rose. So this is about the War of the Roses before the Tudor issues. And this is set in 15th century England. The Neville family rules the north with an iron fist, and that's about Ralph Neville, yeah, Earl of Westmoreland. And he foresees a match between Cicely and his ward Richard. I remember that storyline's connected to another book that I just read. But on her wedding day, Cicely takes a secret with her to an altar, And this is talking about the white rose and red rose. I think I've read a book like that by Anna Bryan recently, so this is going to be interesting to read Joanne Hickson's take on this. This is a chunky one. This is like 520 odd pages. What have I let myself in for? But I'm hoping, because the typesetting is quite big, we'll see how it goes. God. Right guys, I'm going to try and change my angle around. Just try and see if that helps it a little bit. Now to my 4 contemporaries. Very, very different. But again, I don't want to go into them too much. This is a book that I've had on my shelves for a long time. This is Dorothy Comeson's contemporary work, which she used to do, called The Chocolate Run. I've had this on my shelf for ages. Who needs love when you've got chocolate? Again, don't we all? I love comfort. Chocolate is my comfort go-to, although it makes me bloody sick. But yeah, this is, I didn't mean to, honestly I didn't, it just happened. Amber Scent Clothes doesn't mean to keep ending up in bed with her friend Greg Wallison, but she can't help herself. And every time it just happens, their secret affair moves closer to being a real relationship. But he's a womanizer and she's a commitment phobe. While Amber struggles to accept her new feelings for Greg, she also realises that her closeness to Jen, her best friend, is slipping away. This is a delectable tale of lust, love and chocolate. Just over 400 pages, not short but sweet, but does look good. Then to a book that is by an author that I really love, and I thought this looks a little bit summery, so this might be one of my earlier ones while the sun's still out, so I might try and pick this up very, very soon. And this is Finding Hope at Hillside Farm, and this is by Rachel Lucas. This is maybe the place, this could be the place for a chance for them to remember who they were before everything. Hillside Farms is nestling in the rolling hills of the Welsh countryside, a safe haven for Ella. Living on a remote farm with her horses and Aunt Brun for company, Ella thinks she's finally found a place where she can forget her own past. But the arrival of a small girl called Hope and her father Harry changes everything. As Ella helps the pair come to terms with their loss, she realises she too deserves happiness. But is it too late? This looks incredible. Hey, just over 400 pages, but it looks great. It looks like one that's going to really help. The next one is It Started With a Tweet by Annabelle. This is quite a recent one I purchased at Baz Books, and this one might be saved to later in the month when I am literally going to be on my phone a bit more if the weather's crap. And this is Could You Survive a Digital Detox? I flipping couldn't. It's how I talk to half my bloody friends is on my phone, because obviously digital, you know, like WhatsApp is how I got the book waffle group. This is Daisy Hobson lives her whole life online, but when her social media obsession causes her to make a catastrophic mistake at work, she finds life going into freefall. Her sister Rosie thinks she has the option, a digital detox in a remote cottage in Cumbria. And Daisy soon finds a welcome distraction there in Jack, the rugged man next door. This sounds incredible. I really like the look of this. Looks like fun. And then to another recent purchase that I randomly thought, again, this is Millie Johnson's latest book that I've seen everywhere, and I got it for £1. This is Together Again by Millie Johnson. And this is about sisters, Jolene, Marcia and Annie. They've convened at their family home following the death of their mother. Born 7 years apart, the women are more strangers than sisters. Jolene is a successful romantic novelist. Marcia has put all her energies into her work, trying to mend her broken heart. Anise left home at 16 and never returned, not even for the death of their father, until now. When the sisters discovered their mother left everything to Anise in her will, it undermines everything they thought they knew. This looks incredible. Can't wait to read this. And this is only like 362 pages, so it's a bit shorter. What have I let myself in for, guys? I do not know. Anyway, those are the books that obviously I'm planning to read in the second half. I will probably add more, but they're like the priority for the second half. Are there any books you're looking forward to in the second half? Are there any books that you think, you know, I should prioritise out of those? And also, what's your favourite book? If you don't necessarily want to leave a comment if you don't want to necessarily leave a comment, but you just want to put an emoji and you've got to the end of this video. If you have got to the end of this video, because today the sun is out, put like a sun or weather emoji. I would love to see what you all think. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, not subscribed yet, bang on my ding-a-ling, and I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.